everyone. Welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Lulu. And on this week's episode, Dr. Molly Maloof discusses her new book, The Spark Factor, and how to supercharge your energy with her expert biohacking tips. Dr. Molly is passionate about extending healthspan through her medical practice, personal brand, entrepreneurial, and educational endeavors. She's the founder and CEO of Adamo Bioscience, a company pioneering the science of love. She provides personalized medicine to world-class entrepreneurs, investors, and technology executives in Silicon Valley. Since 2012, she has worked as an advisor or consultant to over 50 companies in the digital health, consumer health, and biotechnology industries. She teaches a course on healthspan in the medical school at Stanford University and is writing a book on biohacking for women with Harper Wave Books, coming out on January 31st, 2023. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Genetic Genius Podcast. I'm so thrilled today to have my wonderful guest, Dr. Molly Maloof. Welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Lulu.
You're welcome. I am so excited to talk about your new book, Spark Factor. It's amazing. I had so much fun reading it, and I can't recommend it enough. And I'm so excited for our listeners to hear about it today. But first, before we talk about your book, let's hear about you. So Can you tell us a little bit about who you are, how you got to be where you are today, and then we'll jump right into talking about you.
How far do we want to go back?
All right. Let's keep it brief about where you are now, right?
Yeah. Okay. So I'm a doctor by training, MD, and I'm also a concierge physician to executives, investors, and entrepreneurs, mostly in Silicon Valley and Los Angeles. I do live in Austin currently, but I'm debating moving back to California. I haven't decided. I advise a bunch of companies. So I split my time between innovation work and my medical practice and then my personal brand, which is where I wrote this book. And I really wrote the book because I wanted to take everything that I learned in working with startups and in my career and put it into a book and really just try to give it to more people than just Stanford students or executives in Silicon Valley. Yeah. And then I'm also the founder of a company called Adamo Bioscience, and we're pioneering research around the science of love to create products and services to help measure and amplify love. So that's me.
I love it, Dr. Molly. It sounds like you have you're quite the Renaissance woman. You got a lot of things under your belt, which is not surprising based on the aspects of the book, which are so well-rounded and encompassing, which we could talk for days about all the stuff in the book, but we're going to highlight the amazing things, which I think our listeners are going to love today. Let's first talk about the aspect of biohacking. And I'd love for you to give your description, because I think everybody has their own, how it hits their heart or how it really sparks, so to speak, their passion. And what's your take on biohacking, and really how do you think it upgrades the body's potential and resilience?
So to me, biohacking is intentionally manipulating your biology to optimize your health. And it's a way to change your body and your brain in the pursuit of optimal mental and physical performance. Women have always been biohacking. And I think we were the original biohackers. We have to biohack our periods, our menstrual cycles, our fertility, the hormonal changes of life. And remind me again, what was the second part of the question?
Oh, yes, no worries. How the biohacking is then kind of upgrades the body for that real potential and resilience.
Sure. Biohacking largely is taking lifestyle medicine and functional medicine into your own hands. So a lot of people are getting their own labs and they're basically running their own experiments and they're wearing wearables and they're doing their own N=1 studies. And so it's about basically gathering information from your body, coming up with some hypothesis of what you think is going on, tailoring some interventions to what you're going to do to change these markers and or qualitative marker. They can be qualitative or quantitative. And then going out and actually doing the behavioral lifestyle changes or taking the supplements or changing your diet or changing your exercise regimen. And then tracking your outcomes. You know, what I kind of call this scientific biohacking, because it's really taking the scientific method and using it to optimize health.
Yeah, that's great. I love that. That's the perfect summary. And I think that's really also what your book is about too, especially from that female perspective. And I love that you mentioned that, we're the original biohackers. Of course we are. And I think that we're seeing men take a lot more interest in their health, especially on the biohacking realm of things. But as far as women, we're always looking for a way to feel our best, look our best, and have that prevention face forward.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So let's talk about your book, Spark Factor. factor. You said a little bit, but what was kind of like the inspiration really from behind why you wanted to write this book? Being an author myself, I know it takes a
Sure.
lot of work.
One of the biggest things that I realized in my practice and in my research was that basically mitochondria are the root cause of most chronic diseases and most, even what we're believing now to be a lot of mental dysfunction. And when you think about that, the question is, what's really the root of all this? And to me, when I discovered many years ago, when I first started putting glucose monitors on me, I was looking at the statistics and it was like 1 in 3 people had pre-diabetes and 80% of them didn't know it. And now it's 90% of people don't know it. I guess where less and less people know the problems. Energy dysregulation contributes to insulin resistance. And this sets you up for full-blown metabolic disease. And when people have blood sugar problems, they don't always know what to do about it. And they don't know how to approach it. And doctors are just like, eat right and exercise more. But when you have actual wearable technology that gives you tactical information, not just strategic information, but tactical, which means like, what should I do with my lifestyle? I'm wearing a blood sugar monitor right now. I'm wearing an Oura Ring. These are two of my favorite tools to measure my glucose, my sleep, my stress, and my movement, fitness. And these are the biggest drivers of insulin resistance is lack of movement, eating the wrong foods for your body, stressing out your body too much, and not getting plenty of rest. And to me, we have better data than ever. We have really good clinically validated tools. And so we now have everything we need to actually optimize our own health and do more than what our doctors say, which is we know we can learn how to eat right and exercise for our bodies.
Right.
And that's the secret, really, is finding out what works for your lifestyle. So you can reverse these risks of chronic diseases. Because here's the thing, if you have insulin resistance, you're going to have mood issues. You're going to have problems losing weight because your appetite's going to be all over the place. You're going to be riding that glycemic roller coaster, and you're going to be getting sleepy after meals. You're going to have energy up and down. You're going to have fatigue. And you're also like oftentimes like never even fully full after a meal. There's a lot of problems with being insulin resistant, and having been insulin resistant before, I know what it's like, and it sucks. And I fixed it using continuous glucose monitoring. And to me, this was like the secret to my real health journey, was like wearing these glucose monitors. And I started using them in 2014. It was a long time ago. And to me, glucose monitors are like, of all the tools everyone always asks me, like, what should you use? It's always Oura Ring and glucose, because the glucose monitor can also show you how your exercise affects your blood sugar, your sleep affects your blood sugar, when you eat affects your blood sugar, what you eat affects your blood sugar. If you keep your blood sugar stable and steady throughout the day, your energy levels are consistent, your mood is consistent, skin gets better. You basically have healthier fertility levels. And this is something that's an important tool for also developing metabolic flexibility. And I wrote this book because I wanted to teach people how to avoid getting chronic disease and how to personalize their journey to do that.
Oh, that's amazing. And you talked about so many pieces, and I really like the empowerment piece, because we're moving into this new stage, which I don't know why it's new really, but where we're empowering our patients to really learn about their health in a different way. It's okay. You have these tools that you can use. You can actually monitor yourself and see how what you're doing in your lifestyle changes how you feel. Like I loved how you talked about all about the glucose monitor, because it's so important. It's such an easy tool. It's not expensive. So it's really readily available to patients, and they really can see the difference in what they're doing so quickly too, which I love about the glucose monitor, as opposed to something. Oura Ring is amazing, but you don't always see, I think, the results of what you're doing maybe quite as quick as a glucose monitor.
Yeah, it's pretty immediate. It's in the moment. But guess what? There's now a tool called Hanu Health. And it's actually a tool that people can use to actually see continuous heart rate variability monitoring, which is pretty cool. And a lot of people didn't even know that was possible. So now we have this. You wear a polar heart strap, which is
that's great.
Not everybody wants to wear that, but it does work.
Yes, it depends on what level you want to go to with biohacking. There's all kinds of things you could monitor. And when is your book is not officially out yet?
My book is coming out on the 31st of January. And I'm very excited. It's very soon.
Yeah. So you're doing lots of promo and getting ready for the launch, which is so exciting.
Oh my God. I was on 5 podcasts yesterday.
That's a lot.
It was a lot. It was a lot of podcasting, but you know what? I'm just grateful that I have people who interview me and talk about my book. Cause like I put so much work into it.
Totally.
that,
And it's like your little baby, you're birthing your new
yeah,
baby, right? It's really a big
yeah,
deal. Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And when we're talking about the book today, one piece that I loved about your book, there's so many different aspects, but I love the human energy crisis, like title of
yeah,
part one. And I'd love for you to talk about that because especially as women, we're like so depleted energetically in our, especially now in our current state of health. But like, what does that mean to you? Could you talk about the human energy crisis and why we're in it?
yeah. So here's the thing, like the human energy crisis is literally similar to the same crisis we have with gas running engines. And essentially we're producing too much, we're basically burning too much fuel from gasoline and it's causing pollution, right? So same
Hmm.
thing is happening inside the cell when you overconsume sugar and refined carbohydrates. And you're stuck on burning carbs all day long. What
Mm.
happens is that you can't properly flip the metabolic switch because your body's like a hybrid engine. So you should be able to flip the switch to running on battery power, which is like running on your natural reserves of energy. Every
Hmm.
cell has access to, generally speaking, fatty acids as well when you're not eating food. So if you think about this, we're not running on our battery power because we're always eating carbs all day long. And that's causing a big problem on a cellular level because it's really important for metabolic flexibility, which is, by the way, fuel switching. Basically, your
Mm.
cells are supposed to switch fuels back and forth, feasting,
Right.
fasting, and we don't do that anymore. And so as a result, people's mitochondria are becoming dysfunctional.
Yeah.
And when the mitochondria break down, then your blood sugar rises because you can't, when you're insulin resistant, it's like the key does not unlock the door and you can't get the glucose into the gas tank. And it's a problem.
Hmm.
Basically, the cells stop running properly.
Yeah. They
You know,
forget.
they just stop working properly.
Mm.
And when your cellular metabolism doesn't function properly, your energy doesn't work. So you start getting tired and you start
Mm.
degrading your energy of your cells. And then over time, as that happens, when your energy gets to the point of like 50%, when your energy capacity is about 50%, that's when you start seeing chronic diseases emerge. And
Mm.
this is essentially the mitochondrial theory of energy dysregulation. It's like that there, it's funny because your podcast is called it's a podcast on genetics, but
The genetic genius.
and don't get me wrong, genetics are probably responsible for about 20% of longevity, but it's mostly our lifestyles and epigenetics.
Oh, totally.
And our mitochondria are epigenetic regulators. So they're regulating the energy and where it goes. And so if your mitochondria start to break, you're in a crisis because you're going to get
Yeah.
chronic diseases. You're going to get brain diseases like dementia. You're going to get diabetes. You're going to get higher risk of heart disease, higher
Hmm.
risk of ADHD, mood disorders, depression, anxiety. And it's obviously more complicated than just energy dysregulation because it also has to do with the messages your body's getting sent from the outside world. And the stress from losing a job or divorce can certainly play a role in
Oh, yeah.
creating the conditions for depression. But fundamentally, what I want to teach people is that this energy crisis can be fixed. It's totally
Exactly.
fixable.
Mm.
It's all about developing metabolic flexibility by moving your body properly, reducing your stress levels, connecting with your community more, making sure that you try to cut out the carbs that are causing problems,
Mm.
consume the healthy fats that nourish your brain and your body, and also get enough protein to maintain your muscle mass because your muscles are basically mitochondrial power. And the stronger your muscles, the more power you have in your body.
Yeah. Oh, that's great. And there's so many pieces there. And I like how you really compared that human energy crisis to the crisis of our planet. It's so we're basically looking at the battery of our planet, which is not doing so well at this moment in time. And so
Right.
and I think we're totally a reflection of that. But when we help ourselves, we help increase our own battery output input. We can have that same aspect, like you mentioned, for the community. We can have that influence on the community, the influence on the planet. And I
Yeah.
like too how you talked about we're able to one of the whole main pieces of your book is we're able to recharge that battery. We shouldn't be running on empty. That's not a choice. I
Exactly.
mean, we have the choice to make that change. And I think that's the key factor. Yeah, we can do this. There's the pieces, there's the tools out there that are really easy to use.
Remember, one of the things that you got to do is you got to eat whole foods, put the right fuel in the gas tank.
Exactly.
The other thing you got to do is you can't leave the car on idle in the garage. That's what happens when you're not exercising. And you can't run the car. And I need to tell myself this, by the way. You can't run the car 24/7. You have to give it rest. It needs time off.
Yes.
And I was looking at my Aura ring, and there's this thing that you're supposed to look. I definitely have not looked at this one thing on my Aura ring regularly, but like on the Aura, there's actually this like recovery tool you can use during the day.
Oh
It's like,
yeah.
how many
Right.
recovery minutes do you get? And I'm like, wait, recovery minutes during the
You're like,
day?
wait, what's that?
Since when do people recover during the day? And I was like, am I
Right.
supposed to be recovering during the day? Am I supposed to be taking breaks
You're like, that was just at
and
night.
meditating during the day? I
Yeah.
remember that.
Yeah, that's a really great point. And I think a lot of people, myself included, I can use myself as an example. I had a car accident on January 3rd, and I like put the brakes on. I'm like, okay, I reevaluate totally about how I'm facing 2023 and
Yeah.
really reevaluating all the aspects, just like you're saying. How's my exercise? How's my rest? How's my food intake? How's my sleep? And having something to monitor that is such a huge piece of the puzzle, because I could see it immediately how my sympathetic nervous system totally went into this fight or flight mode. It was from the trauma. And I think as women, we have so many pieces that we're trying to, I don't know, put on our plate. The plate is so overloaded.
Yeah. Totally. That's the thing about women. It's like, I think we're in this weird seismic shift in equality where women are more and more equal to men in a lot of ways, but that's also a double-edged sword, because now we can do whatever work a man can do, but we're also expected to run household and raise the children. So
do
it's
everything.
It's a little bit of a predicament for women, because I think we all wanted this kind of equality, but I don't think we realized that we also needed to if you're going to run a business, it's going to be really hard to do everything at home perfectly. So being a mom is a full-time job. And
right.
I think there's just a lot of women out there that are just like, they're trying to do it all. And they're like, oh my God, this is almost impossible. Where do I even begin?
Right. Yes, it is impossible. I think we can only be superhuman for so long as women. But just like you said, that battery is not sustainable. There's no fuel left in the tank. You're running just like completely on fumes at that point in time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when we're talking about those batteries running empty, would you say are the top three kind of like signals that the body is sending that those batteries are really starting to be depleted?
The first one is the brightness of your skin and your eyes and just generally speaking, I hate to say it, but our appearance does make a difference.
Yeah.
Like when I had COVID and I was knocked on my butt, as you do, my skin was like gray looking. When I walked on the street of different cities, like I'm in New York, you can literally just see a healthy person from an unhealthy person by the quality of their skin tone. And are they emitting light? Are they creating light from their skin? Is there a nice shine to their skin, or is it dull and dark? And by dull, like gray and south.
Right.
And then other things would be, how do you feel when you wake up in the morning? And are you able to get out of bed with energy, or are you consistently feeling exhausted in the morning when you should be rested? That's also a pretty big question of, are you sleeping properly? So if you wake up unrested and you're not sleeping properly, that is a big issue. And then the other one would be just like, generally, how do you feel throughout the day? Like when I'm fully resourced, I am very much in a pretty good mood. But when I'm feeling low energy, it's almost like you just become more irritable and defensive, and you just have a shorter fuse, because you don't, it's like your cup just isn't full. You're like, your stress cup is full, but your sense of resilience is lower because you're filling your stress cup up too much and it might overflow.
Yeah. Your bucket is so full that nothing can fit into it anymore.
Yeah.
And nothing can go out of it. Yeah. Those are great pieces. And I think the sleep is such a huge component. I think that the recent study said that 40 million, and I'm sure it's more than that now, 40 million Americans have sleep disorders, which is huge. Right. And I think if we're given the tools to be able to look and see what that is in regards to sleep and how to manage it better, then we're like, okay, I can notice that my sleep is off. Then what am I going to do? Maybe I'll go to bed an hour earlier, or maybe I need to work on my adrenals, or the pieces that really start to make us be aware.
Look, high cortisol can happen to even a woman who writes a book on health. Like last year I had cortisol and I cut back on coffee. I increased my recovery practices. I reduced my intense exercise. I just did more moderate intensity exercise. I started using all my biohacking tools. I stopped doing as many cold plunges because honestly, it didn't feel like it was helping me as much. So if you're really feeling like your cortisol levels are really off the charts and you're tired and wired, then you may want to course correct and really start pulling in a lot of those recovery practices. But if you're feeling generally okay and you want to optimize, then it's not a bad idea to start doing different mitohormetic stressors, which I write about in the book, which is I do recommend sauna and a little cold plunge. I just don't recommend a long cold plunge. Sauna and a little cold shower is great. It's that, that temperature variation really trains your nervous system to handle more stress. And then breath work is a great way to induce hyperoxia and hypoxia. So flipping that switch, because a lot of breathwork practices require breath holds. So there's a lot of deep breathing, which you're oxygenating your blood, and then you're holding and you're using that oxygen, which is good. It's actually good for the mitochondria. It's really good for your mood. So there's a reason why you feel so good after you do this kind of breath work. And then exercise. I'm a big fan of weightlifting. I usually don't even stop weightlifting, even if I'm really feeling tired, just because weightlifting is so powerful and useful and lift is heavy. I will still lift weights. I'm not going to lift as hard if I'm feeling wiped out.
Moderate.
But I love body weight exercises. I love long walks. I love yoga. I do love cardio, like riding my bike. When you find the right cardio for your body, it makes a difference. Like my bike is like the only kind of cardio I really like to do. And then there's also, things that you can go do, things like HBOT, which is like a weird biohack a lot of people do for optimizing their energy. But basically it's like getting into high pressure and then making sure you get proper sunlight in the morning and darkness at night. That's a switch you need to flip regularly, and making sure that you do have meaningful work, but you also have really meaningful recovery and time with your family and friends. I had to remind myself, oh my God, I need to spend more time with my friends. And I started throwing more dinner parties, and I started having people over more, and it really nourished my nervous system. So connection, and you also need time with people and you need time alone. So there's a lot of these sort of toggling of these different modes your body goes into that can help you properly recover. So another big one is a little bit of, occasionally when I'm riding my bike, I'll just go as hard as I can. I'll go at a leisurely pace. So I do some sprinting, a little bit of high intensity exercise is good for your nervous system. It's good for your training your heart to be stronger. But then it's also good to have recovery and relaxation. And also while we do work all the time, a lot of people don't take vacations. So taking a good vacation is an important form of recovery, stress. So this is the thing, like stress will make you stronger if you have the right mindset around it, but it will break you if you end up creating the conditions where you don't get any recovery.
Yeah, recovery is key, I think, to life. That should be the theme for 2023 is recovery, because we're still all recovering from, I think, the pandemic in all kinds of different ways, reliving or reimagining, refocusing your life. One piece I love that you mentioned, and I was just going to ask you about the mitohormesis.
Oh yeah, I forgot to mention easting and fasting.
Yes.
And carb metabolism and ketosis.
There's so many pieces. Yes. With the mitohormesis, and when we're in that state of stress, what do you think, or recovery phase, what are some of those things those techniques I think the piece that I really like about your book, and we're moving into especially with biohacking and women, is the state of longevity, right? Having this sustainable energy. So what are some of those like techniques that really help the sustainable level? Of course, like as you mentioned, we're going to have cortisol increases and different times of stress, but when we're building that foundation, what are some of those biohacking tools that really help that kind of like sustainability, the long-term look for longevity?
A big one is not putting packaged processed foods, fast foods, and fried foods in your fasting.
Number one, that's a huge one out there.
Those high fat foods are definitely problematic for people because they cause metabolic gridlock. The mitochondria can only metabolize so much at one time.
Yeah.
So that's definitely something that people don't really realize, is that when you overeat foods, and especially the packaged processed foods that don't really get recognized the same as food in the body, your body's like, what is all this? What happens is like, you only have so mumuch you can metabolize at once. And you also have so many fat stores that you can put food into. Yeah. So let's say you filled up all of your peripheral fat stores. Let's say you over consume Kentucky Fried Chicken regularly, or you over consume McDonald's regularly. And God forbid you do that, but a lot of people do. Where is that fat going to go while you're metabolizing that carb?
Yeah.
It's going to back up and it's going to go somewhere. That's where it's going to go. It's going to go in the gut. Right. That's where it backs up into, because that's where it's been metabolized. And if it doesn't have time to get metabolized, it gets stored. And that's why I believe we get visceral fat storage. When I really thought about this, it took me a while to be like, why do we store fat in our viscera? Why would we do that? It's because we fill up all the other fat stores.
That's right.
We also, when we're stressed out, the cortisol will direct that storage to the gut. And it's just fascinating because, wow, as a doctor, I didn't get taught this in medical school. How come I didn't get taught this in medical school?
And it's so
Like, this is
important.
kind of important,
Yeah, it's
you
so
know?
important.
It's really weird, but it's not taught to
Mhm.
us. And so how do you get rid of that visceral fat? The way that I got rid of, I don't even know how much visceral fat I had, but the way that I dealt with my insulin resistance and lowered my
Mhm.
fasting glucose was I learned how to fast.
Exactly.
Not everybody needs to fast. Don't get me wrong. If you're really stressed out and exhausted,
Yeah, not good for
I'm not
you.
gonna recommend fasting. But if you're generally okay and you're generally like, okay, I've got prediabetes, I need to make some changes, it's not impossible to fast. And a lot of people are against this, but I'm not recommending it for every woman. I'm
Right.
recommending it for the people with metabolic disease. And
Exactly.
like, I had insulin resistance, fasting fixed it. But guess what? I fast a lot now? Not really. I fast like maybe 12, maybe 14 hours. That's about
Mhm.
it.
Yeah.
But I used to fast a lot more when I had more metabolic issues to fix.
Mhm.
So fasting is one great tool, but also the last few days I decided to go low carb because my body was just feeling like I wanted to shed some water weight and I wanted
Yeah.
to flip the metabolic switch because I was like, yeah, I'm feeling like I just
Mix
need to
things
like
up.
cut the carbs. My
Yeah.
body just tells me it's like it's time to cut the carbs. And
Yeah.
then I cut the carbs and my body's, wow, that feels good.
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that one piece of that too is that the listening, you just really hit the key for the listeners out there is to listen to your body. And I think we've so tuned out of that particular aspect of
Yeah,
what our body really needs and listening to this food. Maybe you need to switch it up. What would it be like if you took a break from that particular food for a little while? How did
right.
body respond? And it's like we've totally tuned out. I don't know if that's because we're in the electronic age of
Funny you
watching.
mentioned that. Because one of the things that I'm planning on doing in February is like cutting back on dairy because
Mm,
my body's been like, hey, do you need that much dairy? And I'm like, no. Sometimes you listen if it just
right.
tells you things.
Yeah.
But the thing about your intuition is that it whispers, it doesn't yell.
Mm.
But your body will yell at you if it's in an alarm state, but your
Oh, yeah.
intuition will whisper. So you got to
Right.
hear a whisper before you hear your body yell,
Oh, that's
you
so
know?
important. I'm so glad you brought that up. Yeah. And that's the biohacking like prevention piece. If we can
Yeah,
be 12 steps ahead of the game in prevention, then those intuition pieces become so much more clearer. And we don't need to have the alarm being a full blown on alarm state,
yeah,
which is not a good place to be because then you have to work so much harder to get back into that place of health where it's just like
totally.
when we're in the place of health, we can easily swim the river of like good health. We're
Yep,
like, I'm a little bit out of alignment. If I can tweak this particular piece, my body will totally go back into alignment so much easier.
yep, exactly.
Yeah. So when you were mentioning and talking about the mitochondria, which I love mitochondria, I think they're my favorite part of the cell. And when we're looking at like the piece, which you talk a lot of about in your book about being such an
Yeah.
integral part of cellular optimization and energy, what specifically does the exercise help to do for the mitochondria?
It sends the signal to the mitochondria to make more of them because
Yay.
basically it's basically like a signal that okay, today was challenging, so tomorrow might be more challenging. What can I
Mm,
do tomorrow to actually ensure that what can I do today to ensure that tomorrow is prepared for? So this is a beautiful design of the body. It's
right.
really crazy how it does this, but you just never realize how amazing the body is designed and to make us to keep us alive and to predict the future, really.
Yes, totally. And you mentioned a lot of different styles of exercise, and you talked about HIIT, and you also talked about that in your book. And what do you think, like when I like that you mentioned two different types of exercise for where you are in your body, but if we're talking about from the women's perspective, from that hormonal perspective, like the
Yeah.
ultimate like hormone hack, what's a way for women for 2023 to really start to activate their mitochondria from that exercise place?
Yeah, I would say that first I would recommend weightlifting. I guess it depends on if you're sedentary. So if you're
Right.
completely sedentary, the first thing I would recommend is non-exercise activity thermogenesis. And I would recommend you to start getting more steps. Put a wearable on and focus on your steps.
Yeah.
That should be your goal until you achieve a reasonable step count, like 7,500 steps a day. 5,000 steps a day is good. Just got to start somewhere.
Get moving.
Get moving. And the second thing would be then I would recommend weightlifting or yoga. It really depends on what you find easier.
Yeah.
Whatever you find easiest is what I would recommend doing next. So me, it's always about working with your nervous system and your motivational system rather than what people tell you to do. Like to me, what got me moving was kettlebells. I was like,
Mm.
oh, I downloaded an app, got some kettlebells. And I
Yeah,
was
they're
like,
so fun.
it was super cheap. And
Yeah,
I didn't have a lot of
13.
money to join a gym.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
my early 30s, I was like just starting on my career. And so
Mm,
when I was like first starting out, I was like, okay, what can I afford?
mm.
And if you can afford a kettlebell is $20
Yeah, they're not that much.
and they're really not. So with one kettlebell, you can get a whole workout in. And then
Totally.
and then eventually I made more money and I bought power blocks.
Hmm.
And then I bought the Beachbody On Demand workouts. These workouts were so cheesy, but they had these weightlifting workouts, and I got in really good shape doing just doing like power blocks. And I mean, for the cost of 1 month of Equinox, I could basically get a Beachbody membership and some used power block. I think they were used. I don't know if they were brand new, but like basically like dumbbells for home use.
Right.
And
Yes,
so
exactly.
it's always about thinking about what you can afford and what you're willing to do. And then from there, once I got older, I realized like I really wanted a good gym. So
Yeah.
I moved into an apartment that had a really good gym. And then I got trained on how to use the gym, which was really
Mm,
helpful. I wouldn't recommend, not everybody needs a trainer all the time, but having one at the very beginning of learning how to use all those gym machines can help prevent.
yes.
So it will probably save me money. Then just like knowing how to use those machines is just great knowledge. And then I really like the app Fitbod because a lot of good videos on how to use these machines and do the moves, which is cool. And then really it's just been about like following what you enjoy doing. And now it's funny because 10 years later, I like love fitness and I didn't love fitness. 10 years ago, I hated fitness.
You did. That's so
And I
funny.
just wasn't into it.
Yeah.
First, my 20s were sedentary, which is what caused me the problems in the first place.
When you were in school and you're sitting and studying and all of that.
Just sitting
Yeah.
and studying, sitting and studying.
Yeah, totally. I know when I was in med school, it was crazy. I had to really schedule in okay, I have a break between 30 minutes between this class and then I would run down to the park and just get as much exercise as I could. And then luckily when I was at the clinic, I could ride my bike to the clinic from my house. So it was like really good exercise.
Totally.
Yeah. And one piece that I just remembered when we were talking about that with the med school aspect came in my brain. When you were talking about visceral fat earlier, I wanted to go back to that. And when I was working in the cadaver lab and actually, seeing what I think everybody should Google out there on YouTube what visceral fat is inside the abdomen. You will never want to eat anything toxic for your body ever again. It's like
Yeah.
layers in between.
It's
all
really
the
interesting
organs.
because it's
Yeah.
like white.
Yeah.
It's like this white fat. And then when you look at like fat peripherally, it's like orange.
Yeah, it's so interesting,
It's
right?
like totally different fat. It's so crazy.
Right. Yeah, our body is amazing inside and out. And I think is there a way to measure? I know you mentioned visceral fat, but what's the measurement for that?
You can do it through DEXA scan. Cheapest way is just do a waist circumference. That's one sort of, it's not the perfect test, but it's a useful
And
test.
you can monitor it like throughout
if your waist circumference is a certain size,
yeah,
you should just assume you have visceral fat if it's above normal. But then DEXA scan and then MRI. I get Pernuvar MRIs sometimes. So that's a cool way to do it.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know you could see that on the MRI.
Yeah.
I think that's a really easy way to monitor if what you're doing is working for the workout, all the different aspects that you mentioned, which I agree with. I love working out. It's totally changed my life from
Totally.
Yeah. It's just, I couldn't be without it. When my accident this year, I was like, I had to take a little break and do less than my usual routine. But there's so many different ways that you have the benefits.
Totally.
Yeah. And when we're looking at the piece of optimizing cellular energy, of course, I'm going to ask you about genetics. You mentioned epigenetics earlier, and I love working with genetics and talking to guests like you with such knowledge. And do you use genetic testing for like looking about optimizing food with your patients or specific nutrition?
It's funny,
habits?
I do, but I do it anyway. But I was on a podcast with the founder of 23andMe.
Oh yeah.
Anne Wojcicki, and she definitely does not believe in it. So she believes that it's not based on evidence. So I've been a little bit less inclined to do these tests, but I find anything that can give you a personalized approach to nutrition good feedback.
Right.
She just seems to believe that it's not based on evidence.
Interesting.
So it's funny because I felt a little bit schooled by her.
Right.
She also just may not be looking at the same data, but I like the websites. I like the website, My Gene Food. I like the website. What is it called? Live Wello and Self Hack.
Right. Yes.
So are they perfect? No, but are they like somewhat useful? Yes.
Yeah, you can give you some.
What do you
data.
like? What are your top websites?
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think which one. I use a lot of, I run my own genetic test with patients and then I do my own analysis from there based on their genetic. I don't really use actually a website with my patients in that way because I'm doing it more from my own perspective and running through their actual results. Okay, this is how it looks with your carbs. This is how it looks with your fats. What type of exercise was really going to help you to have the most optimization. So I actually don't use a website for that tool.
Wait, so you made a tool that you use with your clients?
Yeah, so I look at the genetic reports themselves for that data, and then I'm looking at all the different
Like
aspects.
which
Yeah.
reports?
Oh, I use a couple of different ones. I like to use Autumn DNA for one piece. I like that company. It gives me some good data for an inexpensive price for my patients. And the report doesn't give as much of a report if I'm using like DNA Life or something, then I can run a specific report for each aspect of the body, hormones, gut, everything. That's like a much bigger price point for patients. So I like to
Okay.
do two different pieces because then I'm able to give them both aspects of the results. If I have a patient who has a lower price point, they can't spend $1,000 on a genetic test, then I can use a test that's 150. It can give us the same kind of information, but not watered down, but still have the same tools. Does that make
So
sense?
you said Autumn DNA. What's the other one?
Yeah, NA Life. So it comes through
Cool.
Nordic Labs. Yeah, so I love that company. It's a really great way because you can pick and choose and packages about how, like for women especially. If I
Yeah.
want to see a hormone test and I want to see a gut test for gut health, then we can pick and choose those genetic tests that give us
I
some
used to
information.
I used to use Genomics
Oh
or
yeah,
New Amsterdam Genomics.
yep. Yeah, there's so many, and they're changing all the time too. We're seeing so many more tests happening all the time. And
Yeah.
I think what you said is from, you were talking about that piece with evidence based. I think it's such a new field. And
Yeah.
we won't need to go so down off the track here of your book, but it's such a new field that we're still gathering so much information around it. So I think you do need to be cautious with that
Yeah.
information and listen to your body. We talked about how important that piece was. So listen to your
Yeah.
body if you're trying something new in regards to your genetics and how does it make you feel? That's the
Yeah.
main thing.
Totally.
Yes. And one thing when we're talking about testing, you mentioned a little bit about that in your book. What are some of the lab tests from the women biohacker, as you are myself? What are some of your top tests for 2023? We have a listener out there. She's like, oh my gosh, I want to have these tests run for myself so I can really empower myself this year.
I was just on the Genova Diagnostics podcast, and I have to say that I'm a big fan of the GIFX and the NutriVal.
Oh yeah, those are great ones.
And then I also love the Dutch test by Precision Hormones.
Which is good.
I think Doctor's Data Hair Minerals. Sometimes I'll use upgraded formulas for hair minerals test, but I usually use Doctor's Data or upgraded minerals, hair minerals. Yeah. And then I like to just get a picture of your heavy metal burden.
Exactly.
And then sometimes I switch to ELISA Alcat or for, I think it was like this ELISA test for allergies because like Genova dropped their allergy test or something. So like
interesting.
I was using Genova, but now I'm switching over to another one. But interestingly, I had a patient do two different tests from them. One had more markers, one had less markers, and they still detected the same markers. So I felt like it was interesting that it was consistent.
Yes, good knowledge, especially for allergy testing, which can be so all over the board.
Exactly. And then what else? I feel like I'm missing something. Oh yeah, I use Avexia Diagnostics to run LabCorp tests through there. They have a really good interpretation engine.
Yeah.
I don't always use their supplements, but I definitely like to get those reports.
I know I do that same thing with hair analysis. Sometimes it's connected to having the aspect of recommendation with supplements, same with genetic reports, but I'm like, you want to fine tune it for the patient. And I love, those are great ones. Those are perfect. And I think those are all really empowering for the patient, right? They can see the whole aspect of their body. They can see what's working. And which of those tests that you mentioned would you say gives you the most information about the energy of the body?
It really depends on how you're thinking about energy, right? Because the energy systems of the body are, so when you eat food and you breathe air, you basically burn substrate you have to digest the food into substrates. So if your digestion is all off and inflamed, if your gut's all inflamed, then you may not be absorbing any of the nutrients you need to run your mitochondria. So like first and foremost, you got to have a healthy gut. But then your NutriVal will tell you what is actually being assimilated. Do you have enough vitamins and minerals? Do you have normal Krebs cycle? Do you have any blocks in your Krebs cycle? any issues with the electron transport chain. So it's going to give you a mitochondrial picture.
Yeah.
And then the question is, do you have any heavy metal burden? I do believe you can get heavy metals from the NutriVal, but
Not that much though, just a
not
little
that
bit,
many.
right? Yeah.
Yeah. So then you want to look at the hair minerals, because you want to be like, okay, if something's
Right.
wrong with the Krebs cycle, maybe it's a metals issue, maybe it's a minerals issue. And so you got to look at that. And then, okay, if you got digestive issues, what are you reacting to? Like, what kind of food should you not be eating?
Yes.
And a lot of people are against this whole food elimination stuff, but like, it's funny. There's always this movement against what works after it's worked for a while. There's always this movement against, look, elimination diets work. Like, whether people believe it or not, like the gold standard in a lot of, honestly, for autoimmunity, like it's a necessity.
Yeah.
So I would love for the world to all be able to eat whatever they want. But in America, we've destroyed our food system. And
so bad.
it's
I know.
absolutely filled with garbage. Like I go into grocery stores and CVS and Walgreens, and I'm like, none of this is edible. Like none of it's edible. It's all
it's so sad.
chemicals.
It makes me so sad.
And people put this crap all over their bodies and inside their bodies, and they expect to have a normal diet. Like expect that they can just digest everything. It's no, you can't. You're going to destroy your body with this food. And you want to look at your organ systems, right? Because you want to see what's going on with your liver, what's going on with your fasting blood sugar, what's going on in your lipid metabolism. Your lipids and your blood sugar are often intertwined with your gut health. So it's all interconnected.
Yes.
So is there one good test? Blood sugar monitor.
Right.
CGM.
Yeah, exactly. Yes.
You know?
And which one do you like to use? You said you were using one now. What's your kind of
I use
favorite?
the Abbott 3, and it's way more accurate than the Abbott 2, I've noticed, and it's continuous. I love it. It's awesome.
Nice. Oh, that's great. That's wonderful. And I loved that explanation of what you said about which lab should you use for monitoring energy. It really depends on what's going on in your system, right? Which is key. There's so many different pieces, especially as women, right? We have all these different aspects of the hormones that can affect every part of our body, and they should be. The hormones are really important. And as we're wrapping up today, Dr. Molly, I know that you would love to give us some wonderful tips from your book. What would be like the top 3 tips from your book that are really going to help women biohack their lives, energize their lives for 2023?
I think if women could, especially the women who have no friends, could really work on creating a community around themselves.
Yeah.
Because 1 in 10 women have no friends.
Wow.
And
that's huge.
It's more important. Like loneliness is a bigger risk factor to health than smoking, than obesity, sedentary behavior. Okay. If that's the case, then you really should be looking at your social connection.
Yeah.
And I just don't, it makes me so sad because there's just so many women who are just like totally isolated and alone. And it's like totally fixable. The hardest part is making that first friend. And then if you got 1 friend, you can have 2 friends. 2 friends can be 4. And it's so much easier to make more friends, but you got to start with 1. Create a community around you. You're not meant to be alone.
That's right. I love that. That's great.
Also,
That's
I have a lot of guy friends too. I know a lot of people don't believe in that, but like, it's crazy. I have tons of guy friends.
Guy friends are great. Yes.
So
spread out love.
And 1 in 7 men don't have any friends.
Wow.
And so I'm on a mission to increase social connection.
Yeah, it's so important,
it's
especially
so
after COVID. People like just isolated themselves to the wazoo. So yes, I think I love that community. That's the hugest way, and spreading that love, giving that self-love, right? Creating that friendship, and then also spreading it to your community. That's so great. So great. Tell us how we can find your book. I know it's not coming out for a little bit, but where can we find you, follow you, get your copy of your book on the 31st, all that good stuff?
My website is drmolly.co, drmoly.co. And then my Instagram is the same, at drmolly.co. And I believe my TikTok is, but I'm not on there as much, but you can find me there. And then my Twitter and LinkedIn is at Molly Maloof, MD. And I'm very active on social media. So I'd love to chat with you and send me messages, and look forward to this.
Oh, that's great. Love it. And tell us about the freebie that you're giving to the listeners today.
I am recommending that you pre-order my book if you can before the 31st, because there are all sorts of amazing pre-order opportunities. You can get access to my course for $1,000 off. So my course is literally a comprehensive curriculum on health, and I'm happy to give your audience access to the course for a discount. It's part of the pre-order campaign. But we can also make that an extended offer, and we just need to have you talk to my team about that. But basically, my course was based on my Stanford course that I taught, and it's super comprehensive. It's like it covers all these topics I talked about today.
Wonderful. I love it. Thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you for talking to us all about the ways to increase the energy in our life, which is so important. And I can't wait to share this conversation with the world. It's been amazing.
Thank you so much.
Be sure to tune in next week on February the 2nd for the next episode of the Genetic Genius podcast, as my guest, Natalie Nidham, discusses bioregulator peptides and how they can help activate your superhuman potential.